Since 1926, the Louisiana Municipal Association has represented interests of Louisiana's municipalities. We were founded on three basic principles: advocacy, education, and service. Through our advocacy efforts on behalf of our membership in Baton Rouge and in Washington, educating officials at conferences and webinars and through technical assistance, or the many quality services provided by our subsidiaries and affiliates, the mission of the LMA has always been to provide the state's municipal officials with the tools necessary to empower them to be strong leaders in their communities and to ensure the continued growth and influence of our municipalities.
I live in a small town. I want the very best for that small town, and that's why I ran for government.
We're trying to improve all the political subdivisions in this state to make sure that they're on an even keel, that everybody's on upscale and doing everything according to the laws.
Local government is the basis of the lowest part. Where the tire meets the road. You're there in local government and where the towns are at, and they're close to your people, and the educational part of it, and the coming together part of it, and learning the proper things you should be doing and learning the laws, and that's very important.
You see us walk in the halls, and by having the newly elected officials in LMA and listen to the representatives and the senators greeting them, this is the right way to do it. You see them in the halls, talk to them individually and tell them what you need, and it makes all the difference in the world.
When you can see them face to face and they can see how important it is to the mayors and council members from their towns and their districts, I think that makes a big difference.
There's power in numbers, so because we showed up, we had an opportunity, I believe, to have some of those things that we wanted accomplished.
That's what's great about the LMA. It brings all the municipalities together. We all go to the Capitol and we plead our case for whatever bill concerns our municipality.
The LMA is a great network because they're a single point of contact where we can go whenever legislation is opposed that potentially is going to affect local governments. And so we have sort of one-stop shopping where we can go there. They can get feedback from all of the different cities and towns across Louisiana, give us feedback on how we can perfect that legislation and ensure that it actually helps versus hurts our communities.
I know better what laws to implement, what appropriations to make, when I hear from my local officials and they say this is our need. It is a partnership where ideally we're working for the betterment of that family in Louisiana.
These are all elected public servants from across the state of Louisiana, from our smallest villages to our biggest cities. And what I know is every single constituent of theirs is also a constituent of mine. And if we're going to do the best job as a state that we can serving the state of Louisiana, we have to be good partners with the Municipal Association and all of these elected leaders, whether they're city councilmen, aldermen, mayors, you name it. And so being able to come and share with them all the momentum we have in Louisiana right now and our plans to address the challenges that remain. This is an invaluable opportunity for me to get with them, make sure that we're moving forward together and that we are putting Louisiana first. That is happening in large part thanks to their really good work all across the state of Louisiana.
I'm in my third year as a mayor. LMA has been a big help. The information that comes out of here has helped me make some really, really tough decisions. But the biggest deal is the networking with the other mayors, to sit down and talk to them about what's going on in their world, and they can help you figure it out. When you come here, it's like a breath of fresh air because you can sit down and talk to them and look at you look at your problems from a different view.
Hi, my name is Misty Clanton. I'm a newly elected mayor from the city of DeRidder. I am very happy to be here at LMA today. I think that it's important that elected leaders across the state network with one another. So I'm very excited to be able to do that, to gain those relationships and to learn about all the services that are available to cities.
Oh, well, we love LMA, so, and the whole council is here, and we just get a lot of information to carry back to our town.
Our city does. We use Lma and RMI. We use both of them. That's a great experience. You know, it's just great. A lot of it is free. A lot of the services are free, and so it helps us move along. It's a great deal.
We use Lma services. We've been using the insurance premium tax for years. We do the occupational license. We've used the purchase plan that they have. You know, RMI for insurance has saved us a tremendous amount of money, and that's what happens when you pool all your assets together to go out and get the best prices, and it's worked real well.
The city of Ville Platte, we participate in a multitude of services, again, especially Lma. Lma provides a procurement service for us as well, a bidding service, IPT services, computer services. All of those services that Lma have, they are free. That's why we urge people to become members. Also, risk management and provide the insurances that you need for your police department, for your vehicles, and also for your health insurance as well.
But we have utilized risk management in the past, and we are always calling the LMA for advice.
There are many offerings from LMA, and the City of Pine will try to take advantage as many of those as we possibly can, whether it be Lma, whether it be RMI, whether it be other opportunities that the Municipal Association offer. We try to play a part in that, and it works in our favor also because it takes some of the burden for the most part off of us as a community.
We've got all our insurance with risk management, and regardless what it might be, if it's a police vehicle accident, they're always there to help us out.
From Spring Hill to Grand Isle, Monroe to Lake Charles, and all points in between, the LMA staff is committed to the principles of our founders and to ensure the success of our membership.
Hello, this is Mayor President Sharon Weston Broome. Welcome to the Louisiana Municipal Association Midwinter Conference. I want to welcome all of the mayors, city council members, municipal clerks, police chiefs, city attorneys, and municipal employees from across our state who are joining us here today for our virtual event. Our Midwinter Conference may look different this year because of the coronavirus pandemic, but I assure you that our program will be the best one yet. Despite this change, all of you are with us today because you are dedicated to serving the residents of the great state of Louisiana. I want to thank all of you for taking this time to help create a better future for all of our residents. In the words of Condoleezza Rice, there's no greater challenge and there's no greater honor than to be in public service. Let us continue to navigate this challenge hand in hand. With this being said, I look forward to welcoming all of you back to the capital city this summer for the Lma Annual Convention. The convention will be from July 21st through July 29th at the Baton Rouge River Center. Rest assured, our facility has ample space for social distancing. Until then, make sure to mask up, wash your hands often, and practice social distancing. This will help us protect our community and reach our goal of meeting again in person soon. God bless.
This week is our 2021 annual Midwinter Conference, but it's got a little twist to it this year because of the COVID issues and social distancing and room requirements. We're doing it virtually. Right now, with the natural disasters and the recovery, we do have a lot of the FEMA money, and there's been a lot of concerns about coming up with the reimbursement match. We were pleased to find out that President Biden did issue sent a letter to the governor issuing a 90-10 reimbursement. So it's usually 75-25, which for a lot of issues that have been hit by COVID hurricanes, and now an ice storm, it's just impossible to get that 25% match. So we're very pleased that at least we have it down to 90-10. Our goal hopefully is to eventually get 100% match. But those that were affected statewide by Hurricane Laura, a lot of their assistance will be through FEMA will be a 90-10 local match, being local at 10%. We have some other issues with the legislature coming in April. It's going to be a fiscal only session because it's an odd number year. And what our main issue is going to be dealing with centralized collection of sales taxes. Of course, as you know, locals have done a great job controlling their ability to collect and disperse sales taxes to local municipal governments, local parish governments. However, on the other side, those folks that businesses that collect the taxes on the business side feel that it's cumbersome and there are a lot of issues. And this has been an issue ever since my 21 years at the LMA. And so right now, we feel like something is going to come out of the legislature. But the good news is, with the leadership, they're putting it on local government. Y'all do. It's up to y'all to come up with a plan, which I think we're working with our partners. That's what we're doing. We have a long history of when they've got sales tax issues and problems that come up, that it's the local governments that solve that problem. Going back to the late 90s, codifying the Uniform Sales Tax Code, the parish e-file system, and most recently creating the locally controlled Remote Sellers Commission that addressed the Wayfair decision in collecting internet taxes. And to my understanding, since it came online in July, over about $135 million has been collected of state and local internet sales taxes. So that's been a tremendous achievement and a success thanks to local government. So we have all the faith in the world that it's going to be the locals that are going to help address the centralized sales tax issue while maintaining local control, because that's what's paramount to us, is local control.
I wanted to speak with you about the single tax collections. Our local governments, as you know, depend heavily on sales taxes. Sales taxes account for large percentages of our revenues and, quite frankly, our operating budgets. We're concerned about several things. One, losing control and access to our own revenue. Two, having immediate access to cash to meet our obligations. We need it now. Three, our bond and credit ratings, which are essential. And of course, number four, which is the interest we collect off of those taxes. The Louisiana legislature, as you know, passed a study resolution on last year to look at this issue. I wanted to share an update with you regarding those outcomes. So the legislation is supposed to improve processes for both businesses and local governments by utilizing technology. In other words, for us local governments, we would all need to use the same technology. For businesses, they would have only one portal of entry that will serve many parishes and the state, so that they're not filing separately. Of the details yet to be finalized is within this proposal is what is most essential to local government. As proposed, this centralized taxing structure would be overseen by a board, yet giving our power again to non-elected people. We as local governments, of course, want adequate representation on this board. A local government must be able to retain an ability to audit in case there's an issue or when cases, where the state is not auditing. We have to make sure this gets done. Locals must have immediate access to cash. I don't know how this became, much more clear as we've moved through this pandemic that we're continuing to experience on a daily basis. In this day and age, there's no reason why locals can't earn interest on their sales tax collections, as we always have. Immediate access to these funds to pay, again, our obligations. Our legislators really need to hear from us and hear from you collectively, all of us, on this issue. So I have three things that I hope you'll join me in doing. One is to sign on to a letter that captures these points that I've shared, so that we all can have something in writing. I hope you can, and we really can rely on LMA to help circulate this and make it happen. I also have sent LMA a copy of these general points. Our local delegations really need to be educated on the impact of this policy as well. And three, I hope that we can put together a briefing, whether it's a Zoom meeting on this topic right before session starts, just to double check, that we're all on the same page and that we're ready to go. We don't need to wait until a session starts and then we fumble and then we're impacted greatly. based on our inability to collect our own sales tax revenue. I'm sure LMA, again, will assist us in this and with the common shared goal and vision. But finally, before I close, I wanted to mention just a couple other tax proposals that I know are on your radar. These efforts, I'm certain the LMA is planning to spearhead as well. But one is on the sports betting and fantasy sports betting. I'm sure that, like me, you want the legislation that is proposed this session to include the authority of local governments to that tax, so that local governments to tax it. Early childhood education and others are among the top needs that are partially funded, and we want to make sure that local governments, again, are at the table. And I hope LMA can update us soon with the status of this legislation, with the good news that local governments have the ability to directly tax any gaming that's going on in our parishes. We're grateful, again, for all of LMA's leadership to keep us all informed, engaged, and activated, so that we can keep our legislators educated on all of these issues that impact our daily quality of lives and, of course, the people that we serve. So thank you again for allowing me to participate and just add my voice in your conference. Thanks again.
Well, local government is it's where the people get to talk, I think. Very seldom does the people get to talk to your national elected officials, but they can talk to us and they can vent, and it's just you know, we represent people, and so the more that they can talk to us, the more we can pass along. But it's very important.
Local government is the voice of the people. It really is where the rubber meets the road, and the people they can come right to my house and voice their opinion or meet me at the office, and I think it's vitally important for local government to be a major player in government.
Sure, under the CARES Act, you know, there was $800 million that was set aside for local governments earlier this spring, and while locals were hit, cities were hit, also our businesses were hit. So the legislature did take some of that money, about roughly about $300 million of that money, and diverted and created which was a successful program to help your Main Street businesses, and that money was eventually spent. However, due to the number of applications that have been approved on the city side, municipal and parish side, there's still about $430 million that approved applications for those reimbursements for budgeted expenses on CARES Act, like PPEs and so forth, that haven't been spent. This upcoming stimulus bill, which just had a budget markup hearing in the Budget Committee, allocates about $350 billion for state and local governments. And from the information I've seen, and it's purely speculative estimates, that Louisiana would be getting about $1.69 billion of this money, of which 60% goes to the state, 40% will go to cities and parishes. And so, and that money would be split evenly between cities and parishes. And also, it would be able to be used, unlike the CARES Act money, it would be able to use for revenue replenishment. So we have a lot of municipalities all over the state that, because of the lowered sales tax, because of the lockdowns and lowering your tax base, and also those that were affected by the hurricanes, which may have business closed because of natural disasters, they've lost a lot of their sales tax base. And so this money, if passed, would be able to be used to replenish that revenue. So that's something we're excited about. We're hoping that it can go directly and bypass the state and go directly to the local governments. That's what we're working on through the National League of Cities, and we anticipate it go through be heard in the House by the end of this week, and probably, if it passes, it will likely be heard in the Senate before March 14th, which is when I understand the federal unemployment funds expire. So
it's very important for especially big cities. They've took the blunt of this pandemic, and they're hurting. Smaller villages, towns, it hadn't hurt it as bad, but we could use it. We just went through an ice storm in North Louisiana, and our roads are terrible. I mean, we've got potholes on top of potholes, so yes, money would help. It would help the citizens of this state.
We've had so many municipalities have fought the fiscal fight all year long because of the restraints and because of the cutbacks due to cutbacks at the state and federal level because of the pandemic. And it's vitally important that we keep the stimulus going so that we can make ends meet.
Talk a little bit about the water systems and how beneficial it would be to get federal stimulus money to improve water systems around the state.
Well, again, we had a bad ice storm, and I think every municipal water system was impacted. I know ours was. Just about everybody's on a boil advisory right now. It blew it up, and so fixing that, this money would come in handy.
We've got some road projects that need to be attended to, and with this stimulus money, we'll come in just handy to do those projects on water and sewer as well. We're doing a water project now, which will help out as well.
Let me first congratulate the LMA on going 95 years strong. That kind of longevity is rare and commendable. I also want to recognize my friend, Alexandria City Councilman Harry Silver, who is the oldest elected official serving in the United States at 99 years young. That is fantastic. I greatly appreciate the partnership my administration has forged with the LMA. Working together, we have achieved many great things for the people of our state, and I know that we will continue. One of the biggest challenges facing all of us is COVID-19. This pandemic has had a tremendous impact on us, with more than 400,000 positive cases, and sadly, it has claimed the lives of more than 9,000 of our brothers and sisters. We are still very much in this fight. The good news is that we now have safe and effective vaccines to combat the virus. Louisiana is receiving more doses of both Pfizer and Moderna, and as a result, we've been able to expand the number of eligible groups. More groups will be added as the supply meets the demand. To date, we have vaccinated more than 500,000 Louisianans, and there are right at 2,000 providers all across our state and growing who will be administering this vaccine. We are focused on equity and access, both of which are increasing. I know there have been many questions about mass vaccination sites, and we plan to set those up when our allocations allow us to do that, but we're not there yet. I am encouraged, however, that that day is coming. Until then, we must remain vigilant and continue wearing our masks, social distancing, washing our hands, and getting tested. And when you're able, get your vaccine. It will take all of us, individually and collectively, regardless of party, local and state governments banding together for the safety and success of our citizens and our state. Then there's the financial loss brought on by the pandemic that's still being felt. And I know that our municipal governments have been hit hard. All of the CARES Act funding that was allocated for local government expenses following the 2020 regular session has been expended. And there's over $431 million in approved reimbursable expenses for which there is no funding. While Congress has not allocated dollars for local governments or state governments in the latest round of federal funding from December of 2020, we are working with our congressional delegation and the administration in Washington to keep addressing this issue. I encourage the LMA to do the same. Rural revitalization continues to be among my top priorities. Some $200 million in tax-exempt bonds have been issued for the construction of a renewable diesel plant in Caldwell Parish. This plant will implement cutting-edge carbon sequestration technology to re-inject and trap any byproduct carbon dioxide. It will create 300 construction jobs and 65 permanent jobs, and is slated to be complete by 2024. Next month, the Louisiana Virtual Medical Alliance and the Louisiana Rural Health Association will begin an innovative telemedicine program across 42 parishes. And I'm happy to announce the creation of a new scholarship program for rural doctors, which will provide 40 scholarships each year for 5 years. This will help increase much needed access to health care in rural Louisiana. I also want to highlight the work of the Rural Water Infrastructure Committee. The RWIC has increased interagency cooperation between state and federal partners to maximize the amount of new federal dollars invested into drinking water projects, helping to stand up better and more resilient water systems for years to come. As an example, this new approach has been successful in consolidating the water systems of Harrisonburg and Enterprise. It has increased the confidence of residents to support their own system and eliminated long-standing water quality issues. As you know, Louisiana was battered by 3 major hurricanes last year, and the recovery continues. Not long ago, I returned to Southwest Louisiana, where they are rebuilding their lives and their communities. I've sent a letter to President Biden requesting $3 billion in federal aid for unmet recovery needs for those impacted by Hurricanes Delta, Laura, and Zeta. As I stated in my letter, while we do not doubt the ability of our citizens to recover, we need the help of the federal government to make that recovery complete. And I'm very hopeful for a favorable response. This current pandemic has caused us to rely on technology more than ever. It has also magnified the need for broadband in our rural areas. There is exciting news to report. Broadband access is coming. The FCC has announced short-term and long-term infrastructure awards that will bring high-speed broadband to our entire state. One of the winners, SpaceX, will provide satellite service to Louisiana in the coming months, while other winners will build out fiber and other broadband infrastructure. In addition, our state is partnering with the Delta Regional Authority to develop a state broadband map. This has been spearheaded by my Broadband for Everyone in Louisiana Commission, or the Bell Commission for short. The DRA mapping effort will start in March, and I'm encouraging everyone in your communities to fill out the survey to ensure that they are accurately represented. Your planning and development districts will help with this rollout. I want to give you an update on our industrial tax exemption program. Since taking office in 2016, we've worked with stakeholders in local government, industry, economic development, and the general public. We've achieved an appropriate balance for ITEP. As you know, ITEP is provided for in our state constitution to spur manufacturing investment and job creation. Why is this important? Manufacturing generates $1 out of every $5 that turns over in our economy, 20% of our GDP. That's what we have sought to do by 1, giving local governments a voice, 2, requiring job creation or a compelling case for job retention, and 3, providing an immediate revenue stream for local tax jurisdictions. It's important to note that ITEP still allows manufacturers a property tax exemption of 80% for up to 10 years on new capital additions. It takes no existing taxes away. At the same time, municipalities, schools, sheriff's offices, and other parish and local agencies get an immediate 20% revenue stream on these new capital additions. That's why we need to keep a strong ITEP program in place so that we can attract the advanced manufacturing jobs and investment of the future to Louisiana. On the legislative front for 2021, this upcoming session is the fiscal session, and revenue matters will be front and center. Most important to you is the continuing discussions on the administration and collection of sales taxes. The LMA, along with other local collectors, has taken the lead on these discussions. I have given you my word on this issue that I will support local government, and that has not changed. The Remote Sellers Commission has shown us that state and local sales tax collectors working together can benefit all of our citizens. Since July 1st of last year, when the Commission mandated collection by online retailers, the collections have been at least $20 million per month. The use tax collections for the last 5 years was nearly $60 million. That's July 2015 to June 2020. By joining our efforts in creating the Remote Sellers Commission, the state and locals together have collected $115 million in just 6 months. We will continue to work with the LMA on the Louisiana Sales Tax Board. The other major issue this session will be the local ad valorem tax on inventory. Now, there are some who say that we can just find an offset for this, but they don't offer any specifics. I can tell you that my position has not changed. We cannot propose reforms to local government revenue streams without clearly defined replacement revenue, and we will not raise taxes on homeowners to reduce taxes on business. Remember, my door is always open to you. I want to hear from you. Please keep up the great work, and together, let's keep Louisiana moving forward. Thank you, and God bless.
This has been an incredibly tough year for everyone, especially those local elected officials, juggling, trying to open back up, and seeing the pain and suffering of so many, especially in the hospitality industry. But we'll get through it. We'll get through it together. We always do. And Louisiana has so many tools in our toolbox to bring back our economy and our tourism industry. I first want to talk a little bit about Mardi Gras. We had a great, successful virtual Mardi Gras this year. It went out across the world. And as you know, for the last several years, we've been promoting Mardi Gras all over Louisiana, not just New Orleans. And we saw double-digit increases last year all over Louisiana with visitors coming to enjoy family-friendly, safe Mardi Gras. We will be back doing that in a big way for next year, and we want to make sure Mardi Gras next year is we blow it out the box next year and make it bigger than ever. And the reason we did this virtual Mardi Gras this year is we wanted people hungry for Louisiana. And so at the end of that great event, we said, now's the time to book your trip to Louisiana next year, and gave them information to do that. So hopefully that will have sent us well on our way to having a great, successful Mardi Gras next year. Now, as you know, we've had our fourth record-breaking year last year of tourism. 53.2 million visitors came to Louisiana, and they spent $18.9 billion. They left behind $1.92 billion in tax revenues that you and I didn't have to spend, and that's a little over $1,100 per Louisiana family in taxes. Knowing that more people are getting outdoors now, we wanted to make sure we highlighted the great outdoors of Louisiana as we share this video across the country to lure people to Louisiana. But I want to share it with you now. Please download it from the website, share it with everyone you know. I think it's pretty inspiring about the great things we have in Louisiana. Enjoy.
You are my sunshine, my only sunshine. You come to Louisiana for smiles, not souvenirs. You come here to get lifted up, spun around, and put down in a brighter, lighter place. You make me happy when skies are gray. You come here for the distinctive music and the amazing food. But what really spills out of the horns and over the edges of your plate is joy. Some people might call it joie de vivre, the joy of life. In Louisiana, it's our way of life. You'll never know, dear, how much I love you. So please don't take my sunshine away. So come live life to the fullest, where there's an abundance of good food, good music, and good times. So there's more than enough to go around. Come one, come y'all. This is Lauren Daigle, inviting you to come feed your soul in Louisiana. You'll never know, dear, how much I love you. So please don't take my sunshine. Please don't take my, please don't take my sunshine away.
It is an honor and privilege and pleasure to work with so many passionate people that truly love Louisiana. Thank you, and God bless you.
If I have one message, it is that we should work together for the benefit of our mutual constituents. That is our challenge. That is our goal, and I hope to accomplish it. Let me mention some specific issues we're working on. Rural broadband. If there's one thing that will come out of this Congress on a bipartisan basis, it'll be a significant push to rural broadband. Now, former State Senator Gerald Long has joined my staff. You all know Gerald. He could not be a greater ambassador for getting this done. I think he tells me he's already had 19 different meetings, speaking to police juries, city councils, parish councils, all about how we can get ready for rural broadband. Now, I say that because there's going to be billions of dollars coming through this year, I'm guessing, to further that goal. And if we have everything lined up in the legislature, and if you have the ordinances that you need in your city, in your town to make it happen, we'll be that much further along. We're also talking to the governor's office. This has to be a team effort. There's other issues as well. You all know I've been very involved trying to get the SMART Act passed, which was aid for state and local government for those that have lost tax revenue because of the COVID crisis. I'll tell you, it's a little bit of a changing playing field, if you will. When Congress put all that money out for payroll protection, for stimulus checks, for enhanced unemployment, those folks spent that money. It turns out sales tax revenue rose. Robbie Miller is the parish president of Tangipahoa. He tells me his sales tax receipts are up. Other parishes and towns have said the same thing. Some states, California, has had record tax receipts in 2020, record tax receipts. So that's kind of complicated passing this bill. You can't just give free money to California. You got to give the money where the money is needed. So we're trying to retool the SMART Act to those localities that need it, not just giving free money to places like California. So there's more to be said on that. We're working to try and get that so it can pass. I know the new administration is very committed to it, but as I described, there are some political hurdles. Now, one more thing that we can potentially work together on is whatever COVID relief package comes next. We got to end this pandemic. We got to get vaccine out there and vaccinate as many people as possible as soon as possible. When we do that, economies begin to reopen. People actually can meet for a cup of coffee as opposed to meeting by Zoom. People can go back to work. I tell folks that the best stimulus check is a paycheck. So I continue to negotiate with the president. I'm not sure as a fiscally conservative Republican, I'll be able to get in the same room with them. They seem hell-bent on spending $1.9 trillion whether we need it or not. But hopefully we can. By the way, just to be clear, many economists have said the $1.9 trillion would be inflationary and could hurt lower income and middle income families the most, because once inflation hits, it is those families who are most vulnerable. So it isn't just free money, there is a price to pay for that money, which is why I'll continue to advocate for a fiscally sound solution to the problems related to the COVID pandemic. So let me finish by where I started. I look forward to working with you, whether it's broadband, the SMART Act, COVID relief, and the future infrastructure. We have constituents we both serve. It is our highest honor to serve them. It is my highest honor to work with you to serve them. Thank you.
I'm going to be the ranking member of the Energy and Water Subcommittee, and that's going to be very important for Louisiana because I will be in charge of the Army Corps of Engineers. We had some, other than the resources to try to help us get through storms and hurricanes and viruses and freezes and everything else. We had some other successes last year in Congress. I just made a few notes here. We passed 17 what we call authorizations for new Corps of Engineer projects in Louisiana. I'm pretty proud of that. That doesn't mean we necessarily have the money, but you have to get a project authorized before you can give it the money. And those projects are going to help North Louisiana, Central Louisiana, South Louisiana, New Orleans, Southwest Louisiana, Southeast Louisiana. We also passed, I'm very proud of this, working with my colleagues in the congressional delegation and Governor Edwards, we convinced my fellow senators to forgive about $1.3 billion in debt that we owe from our levees that we built after Katrina. That's a pretty big deal. We didn't have the money to put up our state share of the money to build the levees to protect the New Orleans metropolitan area after Katrina, so we borrowed it from the federal government. And we were going to pay it back over 30 years. And over that 30 years, the interest alone was going to be $1.3 billion. But we all got together as a delegation and convinced the House and the Senate to forgive that debt from Louisiana. So we've still got to pay back the principal, but I'm pretty proud that we were able to save $1.3 billion. In the new Congress, I'm also going to be, I'm not the chairman or the ranking member, but I'm also going to be a member of the Appropriations Transportation Committee. And that's pretty important for getting road money for Louisiana. We've had some major successes in getting grants from Louisiana municipalities. I'll just mention a couple. The bill grant we got from Lafayette for the University Corridor, that was $10 million. We were able to get a $17 million build grant for Ruston, for the Monroe Street corridor. And I'm hoping to be able to do more on the Appropriations Committee now that I have even more seniority to try to help our cities and our towns and our parishes. Final thing I want to say is about education. I was looking at an article the other day. We've really lost ground in terms of the progress we were making in pre-K to 12. Some of that's been due to the fact that our schools have been closed and working virtually because of the virus. But the decline started before then, according to the people who studied the problem. And it was very discouraging for me. I'm not blaming anybody. This is a tough challenge. But we've just got to do better because we deal with our everyday crises, the floods, the hurricanes, the freezes, the viruses, the economic shutdowns. But you've also got to think long-term too. And the long-term future, the key to this state's future is education. It's not the price of oil. It's not the unemployment rate. It's not who the governor is or the U.S. senator is. It's education. And we got to all work together and try to get those numbers back up. Final thought, just like I started, it is such an honor to represent you in the United States Senate. When I debate on the floor of the Senate, when we gain recognition, you always say to the presiding officer, Mr. President, to seek recognition. And the president of the Senate, whoever's presiding at that point, whether it's Vice President Harris or another senator, always says the senator from Louisiana. And every time he or she, the presiding officer, does that, I still get goosebumps. I just can't tell you what an honor and a privilege it is. So thank you. Let me hear from you. Call me. If you see me screwing up, call me. If you think I'm on the right track, call me. And thank you again for giving so much to your cities, your towns, your villages, and to America and to the great state of Louisiana.
I want to talk about some of the issues that I've been hearing a lot about lately, and that is especially on the energy front. Louisiana's still got a large energy and gas industry in our state, and some of these executive orders have been very devastating. We've been working to try to raise awareness, to try to counter some of that. It definitely means thousands and tens of thousands of jobs in Louisiana, but it's also local government revenue the taxes that are paid by people working in the energy industry. It's money to restore our coast. So I've been making that point up in Washington as we try to push back on those changes. And then I want to finally hit on some of the big projects that we've been able to bring down to Louisiana in the last year. Maybe the biggest one that I've been working on the longest with folks in my district in LA1 is on the elevation of LA1. Major infrastructure project. I worked very closely with then Secretary of Transportation Elaine Chao. I still remember that day over the summer when she called me to give me the great news that we were finally going to qualify for a $135 million federal grant to complete LA1. I remember when I called the local officials in Terrebonne and Lafourche. It's been such a long time in the works and such a great win for all of us and folks down there for hurricane evacuation as well as the energy industry. Garrett Graves and I worked very closely to finally get authorization for Morganza to the Gulf, which is a major flood protection issue. Flood protection and coastal restoration remain top priorities of mine. Getting the funding for that is a big deal. We were able to get millions of dollars to fund Morganza as a new start project for that hurricane protection project. First time that we've seen any federal funding flow into Morganza, so that was a big win. Worked closely with Cedric Richmond. We're going to miss him in our state's delegation, but he's over in the White House now. I'm very proud of Cedric and his new role. But Cedric and I were able to get another win last year, and that was to complete the 50-foot dredging of the Mississippi River. We were able to get millions of dollars from the federal government, about another $50 million to go on top of over $80 million we'd gotten before. That's going to create more jobs in the entire New Orleans region, help us to ship more things to other parts of the world. So those were all big wins. But look, I think we're all glad to turn the page on 2020 to get it behind us. We're still dealing with some of the issues related to COVID, but hopefully we've rounded that corner. But again, I just want to thank all of you as local officials on the front lines, always being resilient and strong and meeting the needs of our local communities throughout the state of Louisiana. It's an honor to represent Louisiana's 1st congressional district in Washington, and I thank you for the work that you do at the LMA. Y'all take care.
You might have recently seen that some pretty extraordinary energy policy decisions have been made by the new administration. And many of those policies, in my opinion, don't truly reflect what we're seeing on the ground in Louisiana. While I am a big advocate of advancing our environment, restoring our coast, making sure that we have a healthy planet that we're leaving to our children and grandchildren, simply pivoting all of our energy supplies from Louisiana-produced energy to becoming dependent upon energy supplies and technology from China, or even having to increase our dependence upon imports of energy from states like Iran, Iraq, Russia, Venezuela, Colombia, Nigeria, I don't think that's a good trade-off. And what we've seen over the last 15 years is actually that the United States, our country, has reduced emissions more than the next 12 emissions-reducing countries combined. And you know what? That hasn't resulted from us pivoting to solar or windmills or geothermal or wave energy. It's happened because of natural gas primarily, which we're producing in Louisiana, one of the top producing states in the nation, and we're exporting out of Louisiana to 36 countries around the world. And so we understand that this isn't just about the jobs in Louisiana, the economic activity that so many of our families benefit from, and how it truly powers our nation's economy, and it's a big component of funding Louisiana's economy. But also ensuring that decisions that are made on energy and climate policy are truly based upon science, that are based upon the evidence. And if natural gas that's produced right here at home has resulted in the greatest reduction globally of emissions, we actually should be doubling and tripling down on those strategies. We understand that when you stop producing energy domestically for the 20 parishes in our coastal zone, that they also lose the revenue stream from the Gulf of Mexico Energy Security Act, that revenue sharing that allows them to invest in coastal restoration, in flood control, and in hurricane protection priority projects in our region. So we're trying to work with this administration and Republicans and Democrats in Congress to make sure that we move forward in a good, clean, America first energy future, and a strategy that's based upon not the resources in China or Russia or other countries, but the resources produced, the resources that we have right here at home in Louisiana. So I want to say again to the LMA, thank you all so much for continuing to stay engaged with us, sharing priorities with us, helping us to understand the impacts, the needs, the priorities of governments that are on the ground fighting for the thousands of constituents that you all represent across the state of Louisiana. Looking forward to another great year in Louisiana.
A tremendous amount of work has been done, yet a tremendous amount of work remains to be done. Housing needs, in my opinion, remain the greatest priority in Southwest Louisiana. Folks are hurting, need shelter. FEMA bureaucracy and state entity bureaucracy has been a major barrier to the fast and efficient deployment of temporary housing. My office continues to work with FEMA and other federal partners in ongoing recovery efforts. Additionally, we've worked with the Louisiana delegation to push increased federal assistance for hurricane recovery. That's coming. This includes supporting a more extensive time period for the 100% federal cost share on FEMA public assistance programs. FEMA has begun reimbursement for debris removal and other recovery costs. Getting those funds back to state and local government is key to continued recovery. My office will always facilitate these efforts and provide the needed support at the federal level. Together, we'll get it done. Advancing local infrastructure projects is a top priority for my office and should be a bipartisan area of focus in Congress. I welcome the opportunity to advance that type of legislation through Congress. However, it should be focused on projects that grow the economy and create jobs, investments in our ports, waterways, roads, bridges, airfields, etc. My office has prioritized those investments within the state by working with our federal partners at the Department of Transportation, the Army Corps of Engineers, others. We've secured significant resources for infrastructure in Louisiana's 3rd District, and we've achieved real progress on big projects like the I-10 Calcasieu River Bridge. These efforts will continue. What we do not support is the Green New Deal disguised as an infrastructure bill. This is something the Democrats attempted in a surface transportation bill last Congress. I'm hopeful that we can seek more bipartisan measures and move forward with a large infrastructure bill that actually works for America and Americans.
I'm working to make certain the new administration understands how some of its policy proposals are already hurting the working families of our state. It's terribly harmful to our recovery efforts, for example, for the administration to target the oil and gas industry as it has. Freezing all production on our federal lands and off the coast of our great state will be devastating to our jobs and our economy. And these actions will not help achieve the administration's stated goal of reducing greenhouse emissions. Instead, they'll just raise energy prices and eliminate energy jobs and make our country more dependent on foreign oil. What's worse than that, as you all know, is Louisiana uses revenues from offshore oil and gas production for coastal restoration. So getting rid of the oil and gas industry in our state actually harms the environment. There are so many issues like this where we all have to stand together in a united fashion to defend our state and its people. The future of Louisiana's businesses and industries, schools, and military installations and personnel will depend upon our hard work together. All of you have my prayers and full support for your efforts, and I promise you I'll work hard every single day on these issues in Washington. I'm blessed to have been elected now by my colleagues in this Congress to serve as Vice Chairman of the House Republicans. And I was also appointed by my fellow Louisianian Whip Steve Scalise to serve as an Assistant Whip now on all that as well. For the 117th Congress, I'll also be serving on 2 key congressional committees, the Judiciary Committee, where I've been for the last 4 years, and now the House Armed Services Committee. On the Judiciary Committee, I serve as the top Republican on the subcommittee on the Constitution, Civil Rights, and Civil Liberties. It's an important assignment. I'm grateful for it. That committee includes a number of matters on judiciary pertaining to America's criminal justice system, immigration laws, civil liberties, privacy, the balancing of our constitutional rights and national security, terrorism, all sorts of things. It's also in our committee's jurisdiction to rein in the burdensome regulations that harm America's economy and stifle our job growth. All these issues are critically important as we recover from the pandemic, of course, as you all know. I'm also really pleased to have been appointed to the Armed Services Committee now. Our 4th Congressional District is home to Barksdale Air Force Base, headquarters of the Air Force Global Strike Command, and Fort Polk and the Army's Joint Readiness Training Center, as well as the Louisiana National Guard's Camp Minden training site and other military assets. I'll be busy doing everything in my power to ensure our military has the support it needs from Congress to keep our country safe. As always, please allow me and my dedicated staff to continue to be a resource to all of you. Whether you're in one of our 15 parishes or not, I say this all the time, we are all in this together. We can do this. Louisiana strong. Thank you, and God bless.
Local government, and you hear from Congress on down legislature, that's the closest to the people. And so I think people decide when you wake up in the morning, just when you turn on the water, electricity, you ride on the roads, a lot of that is local. It's local responsibility. So I think it's really important, especially with the ice storms. I know we had a lot of issues with water lines and water breaks, and that's really important to keep in mind that we've had mayors themselves in small rural areas that have gone out and dug trenches. Their council member dug trenches in order to repair water mains and water lines to help their constituents. And it really is these elected officials really sincerely care about their communities and their residents, and so it's really important that everybody just work together and appreciate what everybody does, not only the elected officials, but those citizens that live in there, and also our businesses. Businesses are so critically important to our municipal government. It's important that everybody works together.
How can people get more information about LMA?
Oh, you can go to our website at lma.org. We have all types of information on what we do. We have a great online library of publications that talk about local government and can educate you on the operations of local government. We also have links to our wholly owned subsidiaries, being RMI, which is our risk management company, and also Lma, which is another service company that also has a new program called Louisiana Purchasing Services, LPS, that really helps cities and parishes get equipment, material supplies, trucks, bulldozers, whatever they need at a decreased cost than they normally would. And these purchases do come from state vendors. So it's a growing program that we're really excited about.